Things just took a shocking turn for the Los Angeles Lakers as we have a massive update surrounding Rob Pelinka and one particular player that changes the landscape of his offseason plans going forward. But break down exactly who that player is and discuss this shocking report. We also have some big updates surrounding the Lakers and, of course, some interesting notes ahead of their Summer League game this afternoon. But before we get into it all, folks, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys again for your continued support over here. You guys have been absolute beasts with the support. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to go over today. Now, obviously, the Lakers are in a very unique spot right now. They got their center, both their center position, backup and their starting center position and their backup sorted, but they still have work to do, specifically surrounding the bench and potentially even a starter. And folks, things have taken a bit of a crazy turn here. And you can see this here from Lake Show. And of course, we'll dive into the actual report. He's just congregating this. Lakers are interested in Bradley Beal if a buyout happens with the Suns. And this has taken over the news cycle over the past few days, specifically because there has been numerous reports revealing that not only are the Lakers interested in Bradley Beal, they're one of the highest ranked suitors for him. And this is from Brett Siegel right here, which is the big report. Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns are discussing possible buyout scenarios, according to Dwayne Rankin of the Arizona Republic, the Suns reporter. If Beal follows in Lillard's footsteps and is bought out of his contract, he will be a coveted free agent with teams wanting to sign him to a minimum contract. The Heat, Lakers, Clippers, Warriors, and Bucks would all have interest in a small contract for Bradley Beal. I know I can probably see some of you guys already commenting or getting ready to comment. This would be for a buyout. This is not for, trading for him, his crazy $50 million salary, whatever the exact number is. This is specifically for a buyout at the veterans minimum, the league minimum, which would be very intriguing. I'm very excited to see what you guys think about this in the comment section because there's been a lot of traction over the past few days. And I've been thinking about it a lot, especially, into last night when, reports started to pick up a little bit. There's numerous sources saying that this is the case, both regarding Beal getting a buyout, but also, of course, the Los Angeles Lakers being one of those teams that are interested in getting him. And the more you think about it, the more it makes some sense, for the Lakers. Now, of course, their number one priority right now, assuming they're not going to be trading for a backup center, is probably trading for a point of attack defender or signing one. We've heard names like DeAnthony Melton, and we've heard, of course, Ryan Rollins has been thrown out there as a backup point guard. And of course, they have some guys on their summer league team who maybe they can see, Darius Baisley like Hunter covered last night. But regardless of that, and we'll dive into the Summer League team later. You think back to January 6th. Now, this also, of course, this was a tweet from January, so I want to give some context, but also Gambo has reported this, this offseason as well. And veteran NBA insider John Gambo basically is reporting that Beal would waive his no-trade clause for the Lakers, Heat, or Nuggets. So you think back to the trade deadline or even January when this was happening, there was a ton of discussions about Beal. Of course, the Lakers were involved in trade discussions, even though it didn't go through, probably because of the monstrous contract. They were willing, Bradley Beal's camp and Bradley Beal himself, to waive his no-trade clause for the Lakers, which means, in all likelihood, if he gets bought out, which seems to be a possible scenario, a likely scenario right now, the Lakers would be at top of his list. Of course, you have the Heat as well, where maybe he would get a bigger role. But for the Lakers, not only would this be, something that Bradley Beal wants, I think it makes some sense for the Lakers as a third, fourth option. You can see this here from Lakers Report. Bradley Beal's stats in Phoenix, he was the third option over there. 17 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and really good splits. A player's contract situation changes your perspective on a player. He's not worth $55 million, but he's a steal for the minimum. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. Like this team, and I've been on record saying it, they need some bench scoring. They need some scoring in general, off of the bench. And of course, you have your starting five. You have a very good starting five at that. You have Doncic, Reaves, LeBron, Rui, DeAndre Ayton. Very good offensive starting five. Struggles defensively, we would assume, of course, depending on how many strides some players on that list have taken defensively. You bring in Bradley Beal. He is not helping at all with the defense. You can see there in the reserves. But what he would do is provide this would basically be your offensive spark. And if you're able to get him for the minimum, you can then use the rest of the assets you have, probably via trade, and go out and get an actual point of attack defender. Because if you go out and you get a guy like Bradley Beal, you need, if you're Rob Pelinka, to trade for specifically a pure stop defender, like someone who can play defense, like is an elite defender, right? Because if you don't get a elite defender to pair with this, then your team is purely, offensive, and there's not many defensive weapons. Yes, they have Vando, who's very good defensively. Jake LaRavia, capable defensively. Other than that, like Gabe Vincent, you hope shows some defensive upside. Bronny James, if he takes a step, Jordan Good, like all these guys, but none of them are an NBA caliber elite defender, right? And that's what they need. Aside from, of course, Jared Vanderbilt, but his offense has, makes him a bit hard to play at times. You bring in an elite defender, like a stopgap defender, you're going to be in a very good spot because then you have a bench of Bradley Beal, who's an electric scorer off the bench. You have a a pure defensive stopper via trade, let's say. Maybe you even are able to bring in DeAnthony Melton, who's also a very good defender. Is DeAnthony Melton good enough defensively to bring him in alongside Beal? I wouldn't hate it, to be honest. I wouldn't hate that simply because of the fact that, Beal is so good offensively at times. Like you see here, another source, this is from Dwayne. Beal hasn't lived up to his expectations during his time in Phoenix. He's coming off a season where he averaged 17 points a game, but the Lakers can always use more scorers around Luka, Doncic, and LeBron James. That's the biggest thing. Like, they can need scoring off the bench. Now, part of this is also saying how much scoring, how much more scoring do they actually need? You have your starting five. Most of these guys are very good offensively. You need to focus on defense, all those things. I agree with you, but anytime you have a chance to get a guy like Bradley Beal, I'm pretty confident LeBron and some of those guys will be pushing to get him if he's available for the minimum, because you can still use your biannual exception and, use some of the money you have left, even though it might not be a lot, to go ahead and take care of some of your other, holes, which again, defensively is the biggest hole in this team, whether or not you get Bradley Beal. Now, whether they get DeAnthony Melton is still up in the air. Some new reports have come out and maybe getting a little bit less likely, but at the end of the day, the Lakers are involved in multiple buyout, or rather the Suns are involved in multiple buyout scenarios. And of course, the Lakers are in there. Beal on a trade makes no sense for the Lakers, but Beal on a buyout makes so much sense. And I agree. They need bench scoring. Let me know down below what your thoughts are. Of course, a lot of everyone's perspective of Beal has been skewed because of the horrific contract and him not really playing well with Phoenix. He still had solid, like, really good, efficient stats. He's never had a bad, inefficient year in his career, aside from, you could argue, his first couple of years, but even then he was very solid. Like, he has been a very, very good scorer, even with Phoenix. It was just a matter of you're playing alongside Booker, you're playing alongside KD, you're playing alongside guys like that, and you're unable, he's not worth $55 million. He fell off a little bit, of course. But for a bench player, I mean, you bring him in, he's a sharpshooter. He can create his own shot. We know he has the scoring pedigree he has. He hasn't won anything, hasn't gotten close to winning anything. But as a third, fourth option, I think it's something Rob Pelinka is going to dip his toes into just because of the fact that they lack bench scoring. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know down below what your thoughts are on that. Very interesting report, and quite shocking, actually, that A, he's going to get bought out, and B, of course, the Lakers being interested. One thing before we wrap up here, let's look at the Summer League roster. They, of course, play this afternoon/early evening, and some interesting notes here. So obviously the big headliner is Dalton Knecht. It's going to be interesting to see how he actually plays. Some people said, why is he playing the Summer League? I mean, at the end of the day, he didn't have a fantastic year last year, but he didn't play bad for a rookie at all, and by any means. But of course, I think he's going to be a beast in the Summer League. I think he's going to dominate. Some other guys, Cole Swider, Darius Baisley. That's an interesting one. RJ Davis, Eric Dixon. Those two guys they brought in after the draft, undrafted contracts. You have Trey Jemison. See what he can do. Of course, Bronny James is also the biggest headliner, I guess, for watching standpoints. See how he progressed in the offseason defensively, offensively, his three-point shot, everything like that. And then, of course, you have some other guys in there as well, Julian Reese and Augustus Marcionis, and there's a few other guys like that. But let me know down below what your thoughts are, who you're excited for in the Summer League, and if you think the Lakers should take a swing for Bradley Beal.